Very excited to be talking to you both today. I'm talking with Damian Shiveris and Paul Yude of the short documentary film More Like Paul, which tells the story of how Paul, in his mid 80s, set a goal of running 100 ultra marathons by his 100th birthday, all in the name of raising awareness of veganism and helping the animals. So excited to be talking to you both today. I love the film, it's so inspiring. And yeah, Paul, I wanted to first just start talking about your own personal journey. You went vegan 20 years ago. I was wondering, what was your diet like before that?
Well, Courtney, I was a big meat eater. I used to love my T-bone steaks and my chops and my sausages, bacon, the whole gamut. And then mad cow disease came on the scene in the early 2000s, and I thought, well, I don't want to, I don't want to get that. So I gave up meat, and I found that relatively, well, I found it fairly easy. And for some reason, which I can only explain by saying that I became more empathetic, I started looking at the dairy industry and the egg industry, and didn't like what I saw, and I didn't want to be a part of that, so I gave it all up. But it took 2 years for all the blinkers to come off, and I went vegan.
Uh,
Yeah.
You started with goat cheese, was it? Or
Well, I started giving up cow's cheese, and I was eating goat's cheese for a while, and
okay,
then I gave up. I found out what happened to goats, and then I gave up goats, and I was eating sheep's cheese, and then I found out what's happened to sheep, and I thought, oh hell, I'll just give it all up. And
that's
then I
great.
found
And
out about the male chicks being killed at birth, and I thought, this is all horrible. I don't want to be a part of it, so I became vegan. I went. I gave up meat for my health, but I went vegan for the animals, really. Yeah.
but you ended up noticing some benefits to your health as well,
Yes, I
correct?
did. If you look at my fingers, they're a bit gnarled and twisted. I can't make a proper fist on either of my hands. The damage has been done, but the pain, I couldn't shake hands, I couldn't change gear. Everything was painful. I went vegan, all the pain went. And I hadn't tried to run. I tried to run in my 40s, but my knees are sore, and I gave up after 6 weeks. And I didn't think about running again until just before COVID. I was chasing my grandson, and I thought, hang on, my knees are not hurting. And then COVID came and lockdown, and I thought I'd come out of lockdown with a new skill. So I did a 20-yard track in my back garden and ran around that for 6 months and found out I really loved it. And then I discovered ultramarathons and thought I could put those to good use and fundraise for animal charities.
Yes, so ultra marathon. Why ultra marathons? I think regular marathons would have probably seemed like enough for me.
Well, I started out by I started in March of 2020, and by June I felt strong enough to do 10K every day for 10 days to fundraise for an animal sanctuary. And I thought at the end of June, I started on the 21st of June, and I thought over the 10 days I would get more tired, but as the week went on, I got stronger. And in fact, I did 110K in those 10 days. Um, and then I thought, how do I keep this level of fitness that I've got? And somebody on Facebook, as it happened, suggested I look at ultras. And I looked at the one that Exmoor is pretty close to us, and I looked at this picture of Exmoor. We were supposed to do 100K from Minehead to Dawlish across the peninsula, and I just fell in love with the picture. I thought, oh, I've got to do this, What an adventure that would be. And it turned out to be exactly that. It was a lovely, and I've been addicted ever since then, Courtney.
What was the biggest learning curve for you since you've started running ultra marathons in training or in psychologically? Have there been any big lessons?
Yeah, the big learning curve was I came across David Goggins, who on a Rich Roll podcast, who was supposed to be the fittest man around. He's done the SEAL training 3 times, and he has some inspirational quotes, such as, "We can all do more than we think we can. We can all do much more than we think we can. And nothing happens in your comfort zone. You've got to be uncomfortable." and you've got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm.
And that set me thinking that this we can all do much more than we think we can. Well, what can I do if I've done these 10Ks? Now perhaps I can do a bit longer. And the thing about ultras is with a marathon, if you run a marathon, you don't stop. You run 26 miles and you don't stop. But if you're doing an ultra, most people walk them. 70% of people who do ultra marathons walk them. So you walk about 8 miles, you sit down, you have a cup of tea and a bit of cake. And then you do another, then you go on to the next rest stop and you just keep on going. And it's just a question of putting one foot in front of the other. And there's such a lovely community on these ultras. They really are.
Damien, how did you first hear about Paul?
That's a good question. First of all, thank you for having us. It's
Of
our
course.
pleasure. I was volunteering at an animal sanctuary for some time, maybe over the part of a year, and some people who volunteered there knew Paul. They were actually from his hometown, and we kind of met in the mid, somewhere in the middle at the sanctuary, maybe an hour away from our house. And someone told me about Paul's story, probably in about 2021, and it sounded really cool, but I hadn't really made a proper film then, and didn't really, particularly think the story was going to become a film at that stage. And then Paul was in another film called I Could Never Go Vegan, and I saw him in the trailer, and then I started to wonder about, what was his story, or was there more to the story? How much had he been in this film? And obviously he'd got in touch with them, and I'd got in touch with him, and I took a little bit of time just to get through just with the technology, and eventually I got in touch with him through this friend, and Paul just opened up the doors and just said, come and do whatever you want, really. And so from there, which was about April 23, I'd made short films before, but never anything like this, never what I would call a proper full-fledged short documentary. So it was a learning curve, but Paul gave us that access, and we've become good friends over that time as well. And all as I said to him at the beginning was, I'd like to put your story on a platform. I didn't know what that platform would look like, but here we are, doing interviews with you, and we've got a few things going on. We're at film festivals, and film's been received really well. So yeah, we're really pleased with it so far.
Yeah, so I should mention it's on Vimeo on demand for streaming, correct? That's where people can watch it.
That's right. It is available on Vimeo on demand. 50% of the profits go to the animal sanctuary, in the film as well, which we thought was really important. When we talked to the executive producer Ed Winters and Paul, we just thought that was a kind thing to do under the guise of the film. And just a little bit of maybe a bit of a side note, and something I haven't mentioned to Paul, which I think I can officially confirm, although it's not out on the internet yet, so I know this won't get out yet. But I went to a film festival, Bournemouth Film Festival, over the weekend, which is a town in the south of England, and the film was entered into the short documentary, like I guess contest you might say, as part of the festival. It was a finalist, and then we found out that we actually won the short documentary award, Paul. So I don't know. I didn't tell you that earlier, but yeah, it's our first one. There might be more, but it felt really nice, especially in a room full of non-vegans with non-vegan judges. That the fact they picked that, I'm really pleased about that, and I'm pleased for Paul's story as well.
Oh,
Excellent.
that's so
That's really good.
amazing. Yeah, that's great. This is the first Paul's hearing it. Wow.
It is, yeah. I haven't heard that before. That's wonderful, Damien. Congratulations, mate.
Thank you, and to you too, though, Paul. It's your story, so yeah,
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 well,
I'm really
yeah.
stoked. Well, I think we even
It
get a
has to
little
be
glass board and a few things.
okay. That's wonderful. Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
very. Yeah, one thing I want to do, Courtney, why I opened myself up to Damon is because I want to inspire people. I want to show people what's possible. Here I am. I'm 88. I'm on no medication. I'm living my best life. I'm as happy as I've ever been, and I want to share that. So yeah, it's
That's
wonderful.
so it's so fascinating, Damien, how you just said that the judges, that whole the festival was not a vegan film festival. But I think that's something about this film is that it's not just a vegan film. I think it's just really inspiring, and maybe that is bringing more people into it. Is that how did you kind of? I know you mentioned when talking about the film, I was reading how you had said you wanted to not make it seem like you're trying to be too persuasive one way or the other, and really just share Paul's story. How did you walk that line with it? Why was that important to you?
That's a really good question. Thank you. I would say I have worked for activists, including Joe Carbstrong as well, and who've put out content which is very graphic, and I'm not against that at all. Everybody has their own activism, and there's a place for that. I would never go against it. They do some amazing work. So many activists that share, important footage that we need to see. But I've edited quite a lot of it, and after a while, it takes its toll on you a little bit. And then when I talk to maybe other filmmakers and other meat eaters, not sorry, not other meat eaters, but meat eaters about how their perception of these things. I tried to make a film that had the direct message in it, and I hope you would agree it's very clear about the message, but also was maybe just a bit more gentle in its tone, and so maybe that could then be shared by people to reach their family members or things like that. So it was kind of done by design, but also something that I wanted to creatively like put out, not to be necessarily different, but something I believed in and my heart was in. And I just didn't feel that we needed to go as far to show what happens to the animals, although we do give a nod to it. And we see other people watch some footage in that sense, and Paul's doing his activism. But I just felt for me as an individual and representing the movement, I thought it would be nice to try and do it that way. And I'm led to believe that it is not too persuasive, but still it gets to the point, and I'm not shying away from the truth. We want to make these decisions, and we want to make better decisions for the animals more so than anyone, but for the planet and ourselves, like Paul's proving. He proves anecdotal evidence of all of these things with a demographic that might break those stereotypes. So for me it was just too I felt compelled. Paul's story needs to be told. Do I have the means to do it? Is anyone else doing it? And he turned out in the other film, I Could Never Go Vegan, which I'd also recommend. Great film, that he only had a smaller part in it. So I just wanted to like capture some of his life and share that with people, and hopefully that would inspire them as well.
Paul, can you talk a bit about that activism that you do, and what has the reception been like when you talk to people on the street about going vegan? How's that been?
Mainly I think the scene that we saw in the film was We the Free, where we show a 3 minute documentary, a 3 minute portion of a documentary to people, and they win a small prize if they watch it at all. Just a small packet of chocolate drops or something like that. And then we talked to them about how did that make you feel when you saw that, and most people, the great majority, will say, well, it makes me feel bad. And then you use their words and say, well, what is it about that makes you feel bad? And then they talk specifically about the cruelty that they witnessed, and they didn't like, they were totally against that. And we sort of get around to the point where they say you're morally against that. You don't like what you saw. You're morally against that. All we're asking people to do is align their actions with their morals. What do you think we could do about that? How can you? Do you think you could go vegan? And we talk about the possibilities of that. Yeah. And I find most people are receptive, Courtney. I really do. There's only one or two. Perhaps farmers who I think we're taking away their livelihood, which we're not. We're all in favour of farmers, but we want them to change from animals to arable. Yeah.
Have you ever had anyone say, I'm going to go vegan after this?
Oh yes, yeah. Very not often, but very occasionally, you ask somebody what they could do, and their first response will be go vegan. Uh,
That's amazing.
and that's very gratifying when you hear that. But generally speaking, we talk about sowing seeds. We're sowing a seed, and other people they'll hear other stuff from other people, and then gradually all the information will collate together, and then they'll go vegan. And that's our hope.
100 ultramarathons before your 100th birthday. That is such an impressive goal. And what do you think is the value of setting a big goal like that for
Well,
yourself?
first of all, I need a specific goal to work towards. Otherwise, I'll just let things slip. The reason I must tell you about the reason that I dropped into running so well is because I have another challenge. I haven't perhaps told you about my press ups, where I've got a challenge to do 1 million press ups between the age of 80 and 90, and I do 1,000 every 3 days. And
What?
uh,
That's
it,
amazing.
it, Well, and that you see that keeps me fit, and the fitter you are, the more training you do off the trail, off the road, the fitter you are when you get on the trail. So that started me off. I was pretty fit when I started running, I'm up to about 840,000 now since I started when I was 80. And I'm working towards the million. But I need that goal. I need something specific to make sure I get out there. And so that's so the 100 ultras sort of came on the back of that, really. What can I do to motivate myself to? So I need to get out there. And when I talk about ultras, I'm talking about a mixture of virtual ultras and actual ultras. So I do 3 actual ones and 3 virtual ones a year. That's 6 a year. I've just signed up since there's nothing going on until next April when I do my next actual ultra. I've signed up to do the Silk Road. It's 642K, and I'll complete that by about the middle of January. But it gives me something to get out there for. I'm working towards this goal, this target. So I need to get out there. I can't have a day in today. No, get out there. I mean, yet when I do get out, Courtney, I have to tell you, I always feel good about it. You know, and then you read about the health benefits of doing exercise like that, the fact that it keeps dementia, Alzheimer's at bay. You think, well, yeah, another reason for doing it. Yeah.
And you do keep going, even though it's not without setbacks, as we see in the film. What keeps you motivated even through those tougher days?
There's a woman called Fiona Oakes
Hmm.
who runs her own sanctuary. You know of Fiona Oakes? Yes, she's a
Mhm.
wonderful woman, and she's got records on all 7 continents. And she doesn't have a kneecap on one leg because of an accident when she was about 6 years old, I think it was. And whenever she runs, she's in pain. But she runs to fundraise for her sanctuary to raise money for the animals. And I think, what do I have to complain about? I'm totally fit. I have no injuries. I just get out there and do it. So I have no reason to complain. And of course, if you think about the animals are in such a dark place. You know, my suffering, it doesn't even register. No.
Damien, what are the challenges with making a sport film like this?
Good question. I had some help. I made it predominantly on my own. I had one of my close friends and also like work colleagues, Will Redaway. He really helped a lot, and he filmed a paddleboarder in 2021 who circumnavigated the whole of the UK, and he followed him for 5 months. So he had some tricks as to we don't need to film the whole thing, but where can we get to? He had a bit of a logistics plan off the bat, so I didn't really bring him in for that. He was part of the project, or at least the help that I needed. So he probably helped with those logistics as stopping points. We had to make sure we were hopefully at the rest stops, places we could pick Paul up on the way, places that would hopefully represent maybe something different. The nighttime footage specifically was something we were after as he walked through or into the night for the first time, as Paul explains in the film. So there was some challenges around those types of things. When you're working predominantly on your own, there's often a technical aspect. Um, Without revealing too much in what happens in the film, there is a moment that happens which was quite significant, and the microphone pack, because he'd gone into the night and we tried to get a bit of rest, that had stopped. We worked with him, so then you have to find creative ways of telling that part of the story. But that's also a good part of the challenge within filmmaking, especially like documentary filmmaking. You're always troubleshooting and you're always problem solving. So I think in answer to how do you overcome those challenges, time, planning is good. If it goes wrong, there's always a way out, and then probably in the edit creatively, you can really work on that. And I think the edit was tricky in the sense of how long, you know, did I want the film to be. I didn't set out to make a feature film because I thought we'd have to include a lot of other elements in Paul's life, and I really wanted to focus on the two key points of the veganism and the ultra marathons and how the veganism facilitated that. I felt that was really important, but there were certainly other aspects we could have brought into it, and also the nod to the million press ups that Paul's talked about. We actually shot that scene, and without plugging it, it is a deleted scene available for free on Vimeo as part of the additional features. And it's just a short scene, which I really liked. But again, with the people I worked with and the help I got, we decided that it might just have to go to just keep that story focused, as I said. But it was a bit of a shame, and some of Paul's achievements and the other things that he's doing, there's so much to his life. Not that I'm encouraging someone else to do it right now, but I think you could make a feature film of his life now. I've made, a short film, and whether whether we'll look at picking that up later on in the story. Paul knows how I feel. If he makes it to 100 by 100, I would love to be there. I'll be 61 myself. And we'll we'll wait and see. But there's probably a lot of people who'd want to be there filming it at the same time. So that remains to be seen. But nevertheless, I'm really pleased with the 2.5 years that we spent, following here and there, and the shoot days we had, the time we spent, and what we came out. I'm really proud of it. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite scene in the film?
Yeah, I do. I do. But if I talk about it, I'm going to ruin it. All as I'm going to say is I love a particular moment which might bring some emotion, and we see. Just going to say we see a different Paul, and the Paul that I spent time with in that moment was a slightly different Paul, and my heart kind of but that spoke to my heart a little bit, and the contrast between how we see him prior and how we see him during and then a little bit afterwards is a real it's a testament to who he is and how he takes everything he does, but also that he's human as well. So yeah, I think it's that, without revealing anything. That's encouraging people to watch it as well without being too cryptic. But yeah, probably you probably know what I'm referring to, as I know you've seen
Mm.
it. So probably that bit, I would say. Yeah.
Um, do you have a go-to meal that you celebrate with after you cross a finish line, Paul?
Not really. They do provide food. They always provide some sort of a substantial meal when you finish. But if I'm at home and I want to do something just for myself, I'll knock up a quick dal, a quick red lentil dal, curry. That's my go-to. That and a hunk of bread and some broccoli. I'm quite happy with that.
So you
I call red lentils a vegan's fast food because it could be ready in minutes. There's 10 minutes and you got it. It's cooked really.
so you like to cook.
I do like to cook. Yeah, I do all the cooking at home. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Um, I wanted to something you say in the film is that you've always hated injustice and unfairness. And was that the case even before you went vegetarian? Has that been a through line kind of in your who you are as a person, would you say?
Yeah, I think so. I yeah, I've always looked on. I want to help people. One of the things, or one of my go-to sayings is, I want to increase the amount of well-being in the world. And I've always had that sort of attitude. If I can help my neighbour, if I can help somebody. I mean, I get a kick out of. I mean, it's a simple thing, but somebody at the was parking his car. He turned out to be Ukrainian, and he didn't have the right change for the machine. And I just said, "So, well, yeah, there's a couple of quid for you, mate." And he was very grateful. But I felt better giving that than he did receiving it. Yeah, and I think giving is the secret of a happier life, really. Giving and love. Well, yeah.
That's a great message. Who do you most hope sees this film? I guess this is a question for both of you. Um,
Go for it, Paul. Well, I guess non-vegans who can see that see the merit in giving up all animal products. They can see how it's benefited me, and also the animals. And for me, it's a no-brainer, obviously. But yeah, I hope non-vegans see it, and perhaps a seed might be sown by seeing the film and think, well, perhaps if I did that, I might live to a healthier life. I'm not bothered. I'm not particularly worried about longevity, although that will be nice. But I want to live healthily until I do kick the bucket, as it were. And I want to wake up. Well, I don't want to wake up one morning in my own bed. That'd be a way to go. Yeah.
is there anything else on your bucket list besides running 100 ultra marathons and doing a million push-ups?
Not really, no. Well, yeah, there is. I want to play with my great grandchildren when they arrive. I want to get down on the floor and play with them, but they're not even on the scene yet. So, but I want to be able to do that. Yeah,
Cool.
that's a
And
motivation.
Damien, how about you as well, who do you hope most sees this film?
I think I'm gonna say something similar to Paul, but I've got maybe a bit of an add-on in the sense of it was put together because I wanted to share Paul's story, as we've probably established, and that's for everybody and anybody, and that's why I wanted to stick to the themes and not confuse it with a lot of his other achievements, which are all really wonderful. Um, but really, a lot of the way it was, and by design, some of the choices that it hopefully, without making it anything more than it is, would be a film that vegans could watch and go, yeah, I agree with, that's great. And that's a film that I could show someone else to at least express my point, or at least talk about veganism in its own way, and maybe Paul would inspire other people. So if I say what Paul says to people, or if I do outreach and I say the same thing, it's not really well received as if Paul does. And I've seen that time and time again in the street, during the film, just in life. Paul has a really wonderful way of doing vegan outreach. And so if I could make a film that, a family member could take and take it away to them, or say, oh, please watch that. And I've had a little bit of feedback about this, which was really lovely. And someone who interviewed Paul actually on a podcast from the plant-based health professionals said she liked the fact it wasn't too long, because she could easily say to people, oh, it's 23 minutes, go and watch that. And this will give you some idea of what you could do with veganism. She was able to give it to her mother, who was about 80. And I think at the time her mum had just turned vegan as well. So it was quite encouraging for her to see that maybe it can make a difference, and that she could take it to her friends and say, well, look, I'm doing this, and so is this guy, and look what he's doing. So yeah, I think obviously it's for non-vegans to hopefully just plant that seed, as Paul said, spark that conversation, or next time, they pick up an item in the supermarket and it's wrapped in plastic and it's a body part, they might just think, oh, actually, that's someone, not something. Maybe I'll put that down and go for the tofu, or the alternative, or just some vegetables. There's so many choices, as we know. So yeah, really, I think that's the best I could hope, and then that might lead people, towards veganism, really.
And I will say, even as a longtime vegan myself, I found the film, I mean, inspiring for so many reasons, but one being I find there are a lot of things I would like to pick up, and I tell myself, oh, it's too late. It's too late in my life to do that. Um, so I was wondering, I think it's really inspiring, Paul, to see how you've set this goal in your 80s. And I was wondering what you would say to anyone who's telling themselves that's too, I'm too old to pick up a new hobby or set a new goal like that.
Well, yeah, it's never too late, is it? Whatever age you are, going vegan would be a benefit. It's never too late, and it can be done, and it's just so easy. And I often, well, I say to people, once you know the why of going vegan because of the animals, the how becomes easy. You can work out the how, but the why motivates you to stick to it and stay vegan, and then you can work out how you're going to accomplish that. Yeah, but no, it's never too late, Courtney.
Paul's inspired me, and that's true. So I move more now since I've met Paul. I've put more emphasis on exercise. I haven't signed up for any ultras anytime soon, and I probably won't, but I've started swimming regularly, and just exercising much more, because it's become very apparent to me. I say I'm only 47. I feel like I'm getting a bit older, but next to Paul, he makes me feel quite young. But then the things he does and the challenges he sets himself, sometimes I feel like it puts me to shame. So it's not a competition, but it's more that inspiration to say I want to be more like Paul. And that's where the title, without plugging it, all the time, that's where the title of the film came from. Because I was having a bad day, and I was kind of moaning to my wife about, other people, how good they are at certain things, and that I wanted to be more like them. And I was listing a few people, and Paul was one of those people. I said I want to be more like Paul, and she turned to me and she was like, I think you should call it that. And so it has other connotations that we could do with more Pauls as well, if that's all right, if we clone him out in the world. So yeah, that's where it really came from. So yeah, I just wanted to add that because he's really inspired me and shown the importance of keeping that movement as well as the vegan diet, which I already do anyway and have done for some time. But that emphasis on that exercise, whatever it is, keep moving, set yourself a goal, set yourself a challenge, and also get out your comfort zone, which is his saying from some other people. Nothing good happens, necessarily in your comfort zone. And so every time I go into something new, even with filmmaking or film festivals or just life, I do actually think of Paul and I think, this is something I've got to do because it'll make this situation better or the world better or whatever it might be, really. So yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, one thing I would like to add, Courtney, I'm well aware of the problems you have in the States with the health system you've got over there. And if people are finding their health costs are magnified, which they seem to be at the moment, the simplest, cheapest thing they can do is go vegan, take control of your own health. And then you won't find yourself needing to pay doctor's bills or whatever. If you're taking control of your own health and you're doing it with a plant-based options, it's going to be cheaper and you're going to save money on your health bills. And it would
Yeah,
apply to
absolutely.
us in the National Health Service. We could save the National Health Service overnight if everybody went vegan.
You're on no
Yeah.
medications, you mentioned.
Yeah, I don't have any medications at all. No, no.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, yes, I would like to be more like you as well, Paul. It's really
Oh,
inspiring. And
thank you,
thank you both
Courtney.
so much. Absolutely. Congratulations to you both. Amazing
Thank
film.
you, Courtney. Thank you.